So I'm really excited to be here today to share a story with you about work that we've been doing to engage high school science students through capturing their curiosity in health. And most of what I want to do is highlight some of the surprises that we found along the way, specifically that we think we're empowering high school students to become advocates in their own health. So I just want to get a quick raise of hands. Who in this room cares about health and diseases? Excellent. This is queuing me up just perfectly because we thought that the same thing must certainly be true in high school classrooms as well. So about 10 years ago, we set out to bring health to high school science classes to engage students in science. And I just want everyone here who's maybe a little bit past high school, like me, maybe a little less hair than some others, and to think back to your high school setting and say, okay, look to the left, look to the right, what do your classmates look like? If you're in high school, this is an easier job. And if you're younger than that, just imagine some of your science classes. And you may see some faces like this, okay? Extreme engagement, enthusiasm, and excitement. And I had some fantastic science classes when I was growing up, which is one of the reasons I'm a scientist, right? But I also had some classes that weren't like that. And if you look in the average high school science classroom, you're going to find that about 66% of students find what they're learning to be highly valuable to them. That's a challenge sometimes to engage the whole room, right? If you ask the students, okay, well, what about health and science? We polled students and we found that about 98% of students highly value learning about health and science classes. That's a big difference, right? At first, when I got this data, actually, I thought that something was wrong, that we'd done something wrong, but it reproduces. We've seen this in rural settings, in urban settings, and in suburban settings. I think health is really kind of a culturally cross-cutting and important topic. So we thought, all right, well, let's bring this to high school classrooms. So in doing that, we realized there are some barriers. Normally, what is happening at medical schools, biomedical science and health sciences, is often in a totally different location, different buildings than high schools. It's also in a different space from where teachers tend to learn before they become teachers, and in-service teachers get professional development. So when we set out to do this, we realized this professional separation is a challenge. So we started talking to teachers and saying, okay, what are some of the challenges to bringing health to science classes? And they said, well, the textbooks and the curriculum don't directly connect the science to the health, and there are just very few professional development opportunities where I can learn about biomedical and health topics. So we thought, all right, well, let's bridge this gap a little bit. Let's bring people together, but there's another gap there, which is a funding gap. And what we realized is that most of the funding that funds health sciences is very separate from the type of funding that funds most other science and education. So there's a gap. But we were really lucky. We got an NIH Science Education Partnership Award to help us work on bridging this gap. But we didn't know how to do this. So what we did is we took an approach where teachers and scientists worked together in partnership. So over the course of about 5 years, we built what we call the Great Diseases Curriculum. The Great Diseases Curriculum covers topics like infectious diseases, neurological disorders, metabolic diseases, and cancer. It fills a whole year of in-school learning. It's really, really comprehensive. It's got textbooks and PowerPoints and video games and labs. I think really a nice testament to the teacher partners working on the project. And then the goal from the scientific point of view was, all right, well, let's make sure we pick science that explains real-life experiences or maybe informs health choices. So what does this do? What happens when you bring this to a classroom setting? So just one thing to show you about what we think this looks like in classroom settings. We asked the students, what is the first word that comes to mind when you think about infectious diseases? So these guys just had 6 weeks of learning about infectious diseases, and I thought they'd say something like HIV, the plague, I don't know, something infectious, right? This is what they most commonly said. This is a wordle, so the size of the word relates to the frequency the words were used. So the most common thing they freehand wrote was interesting. That's powerful, right? To be in a science class and to say that. And actually, now when this curriculum is used around the country, and now when I talk with teachers, one of the common kind of complaints, if you want to call it a complaint, is that, well, my students get so excited about the topic, I'm actually having kind of a hard time managing the discussion. They want to know this stuff. It's interesting. And I'm not going to show you data today about this, but we also know that this can be taught and can work for students to learn science content and problem-solving skills in a lot of settings. But here's the surprise, and this is the thing that I was so blown away by when I found this, is that we also asked students about their confidence to learn about health. And this is what we saw. So I'm going to walk us through this data, and then I'm going to tell you why I think this is so important and show you what the courses tend to change. So you can see on the bottom, about 819 to 1,500 students really had low confidence in their capacity to learn about health topics. And a piece of it's not showing up. But I can tell you there's 400 in the other white box. And on the top, we only had 31 students who had really high confidence in learning about health topics. And this is including students from some of the most prestigious exam schools in the country. Only 31 of those students thought they could really learn about health topics. So just to put this in context of why this is so important, I think, because we also have another problem in our country relating to health literacy. Health literacy is the capacity to acquire, obtain, and understand health information, to learn about it, to synthesize it, and then to eventually make hopefully good health choices because you know it. So we figure, well, if you don't feel like you can learn it, you're probably not going to look for it, you're probably not going to engage with it, and it might lead to poor health outcomes. And just to put this on a scale that might make some sense, it's highly related to poor health outcomes. It costs, at minimum, costs our country about $200 billion a year. This is a big deal. So after taking the course, we went from 31 students who had high confidence to about 362 students that had high confidence, and the others are equally distributed. You can see the squares. But I just want to draw out another point here, which is that even in the lowest confidence section, I had more resolution there, but I broke it down into four quadrants to simplify. Even at the lowest level, the students were going doubling or tripling in their confidence level after taking the courses. So to kind of pull this together, in summary, I really think that teaching health and science classes is really important for two big reasons. One is that it helps us to engage students in science. It's a life-relevant, interesting topic like we all think. It's highly engaging and people need to know about it. And what we were really surprised to learn is we think this actually might relate to building health literacy in students as well. So right now what we're trying to do is understand to what extent that confidence might lead to actually seeking information and possibly even behavior changes and health-related outcomes. And finally, I have to just give a big plug and say that I think teacher-scientist partnerships are extremely powerful. And when you bring teachers with knowledge of how to teach together with scientists who have cutting-edge knowledge and life-relevant material, together they really can build curricula that works in classrooms to engage students, to increase performance, and I also think to increase health literacy in students and maybe even build our biomedical pipeline a little bit more. So that's it.